goes to the people to give promises on what they will do, the reason why they get to government. But then again, there are other institutions that also get into power. We talk about the National Assembly, the Senate, the members of County Assembly, and their role to oversight the government and making sure that everything is done right by the people. But here we have a situation where you find that Parliament says it has been captured. We in this show say you've not been captured, you've ceded your power to oversight. You decide not to work for the people. And we also have, in every budget policy statement that is given, it is planned for. But every other time the president goes somewhere, gives promises. And these are promises outside the budget that the country has done. So in terms of other institutions in making sure that it is done right by Kenyans, let everybody do themselves, the justice system to work, the oversight bodies to do their work. Why does it seem as though everybody wants to sing song, to clap for the master instead of doing their job?
I think when one looks at our constitution, it is actually quite strong in terms of allocating the roles. If it is Parliament, Parliament, as you have correctly stated, should be able to, the National Assembly should be able to hold the executive, the National Executive accountable. Senate and the county assemblies should hold counties, into accountability. But on the whole, Parliament, cedes its authority because, first of all, many of them are controlled by whoever is the kingpin. And so if the kingpin tells them to do, certain things, because they know they will need a ticket in the coming season, so they normally will accept. If it is the National Assembly, one of the ways that it is controlled, they get this CDF, and then they go and do monkey business with it. And then there's a file. So if you try to assert yourself, you're told you are on slippery ground. So that is one thing. And of course, those allowances, because sometimes when there's a particular vote or somebody is being impeached and so on, you hear money is flying left and right, So the people don't do whatever they are supposed to do. They get some of this money, so they go to the constituency. They are trying to give it to people to mollify them. But in terms of their core duties, you find that there is a problem. If you interrogate closely, you might find in many counties, the MCAs will be given contracts or their proxies. So when that happens, of course, this person will not oversight. The governor will not oversight, whoever. So it is really this fundamental issue of how do we enforce our constitution? We have this constitution. It is a strong constitution, but up to now, we have not again come into saying that we need to implement it. We need to do the things that the constitution says we need to do. So if it's the independent, the controller, the control of budget, the auditor general, those are trying to do their jobs. But even as they do so, you find that they're under attack, as if they're doing the wrong thing. And unfortunately, historically, even Edward Ouko before, and Agnes Odhiambo, at least those two officers have tried to do us proud. But, many of the constitutional commissions, they've been captured because they're captured through how they are recruited. Like you are recruited and by the executive, the executive has a lot of say, and then you do what the executive tells you, and that is like the problem we're having with the Judicial Service Commission now. So more or less, it is the judiciary which is, even when they have also certain problems, but that's the body that is trying to say that we need to do what you're supposed to do. And therefore, getting this culture of when you're in government, there is a constitution, there are laws, you're supposed to do what they say. That's something that we are still grappling with.
Professor, you once declared an interest in being elected as president.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you two questions. One, why did you want to become president? That's one. Second one, if you were indeed president, what would you have done different?
What would I do about?
What would you have done differently?
Uh-huh.
Because you had an idea of what you wanted to do. What would you have done? Instead of it being general, just 4 things that you would have done differently. But start with, why did you want to become president?
Well, I think it's still a complicated situation because on the whole, people ask me if I could be. Because even in the 90s, when the opposition was struggling with unity, I was asked to be a compromise candidate.
Yes.
Because those days I was the spokesperson of the pro-democracy movement during those days that we wanted a constitution from Moi. Again, 2022, people said, maybe we have seen a little of what you have done in Makueni. Therefore, why don't you become president ukipenda na usipende? And I think there must have been some occasion. There might have been some occasion when I said I can be a president and I even, I don't have to be paid. I just need food for my family and stuff. But on a serious matter, you see, if you really say that corruption will not be tolerated, because I tried that in Makueni, and I said, even if you want to do what to me, even kill me, as in the county assembly, I was almost shot, and some people were shot.
Yes.
I said that we have not come here so that we take this little money, which should go to the common people. And even up to now, as a county in Makueni, we are one of the counties where we had open contracting, so that all information about contracts is available to the public, and it is automated, the information, so anybody can come and look to see whether there is cheating and stuff like that. So that is one thing, and even in the 90s we did a lot of research on corruption. We did a book, Anatomy of Corruption. So that is one thing, if you were to do that, could help. And that is something that I thought, even when I tried to apply to be chair of the Anti-Corruption Commission, the EAC, I thought that, I could perhaps help my country, our country. Again, I think when you decide that institutions should work, so that you don't do everything as a one-man or one-woman show. Sure. If you allow institutions to work, first of all, you recruit people on merit, and then you allow institutions to work. Then you get a lot of things done, by people, and you trust them and you delegate, so that you have a functional, government. I think that is one thing that I would do, because even I sourced for people in the cabinet, in the county cabinet. I sourced for people in the chief officers. Some of them I didn't know, because we said we want the best. Let us, get some of the best people. So that is something that I would do. One thing that I'm very passionate about is the youth thing. Because these 70% of people, they are really in a bad place. And I think in terms of getting a national youth empowerment program, a Marshall Plan, that is also something that can be done. I have written a little bit about that. That would be something that, had to be done. And I think even in terms of like the business, the private sector, so many times they don't want even to talk when they're hurt by the government, when they're not being paid. They are afraid. They think that if you talk, you'll be targeted. I think I would, do what it takes to create this environment where people can really invest, where people can therefore create jobs. I think that's something that, one would do. There are many things that I think one can do, and therefore I think I've answered your first question. And the second question?
My second question was, well, you answered part of it. I said, if you are president today, 4 things that you would do. Because as a president, you tell people, this is what I am going to do. Not what I would like to do. No. This is what I am going to do.
Yeah, and of course you do that on the basis of what they want done.
Yes.
Because I would imagine, like what President Ruto did, he went around the 47 counties,
Yes.
Sourcing a manifesto. What became is manifesto. But so when you do that, you say, what were you told? Like Kibaki was told education. He began, a lot of the primary school education, he said, free and so on. So, as I have said, the corruption thing, I have said,
Prioritizing youth.
institutions, the youth, implementing the constitution. Actually, that is one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
I would, say that we have this constitution. This is our basic charter. It must work.
Okay. When you talk about institutions, Prof, everywhere, institutions in the private, there is something that happens in terms of repercussion if you do not do what you're supposed to do.
Sure.
Whether you're talking at the family level, whether you're in school. In fact, school is a fantastic example. You don't get something done, you're punished. There is a punishment that comes along with it. There are repercussions for not doing what you're meant to do. That somebody will hold you accountable at any point. But here we are doing this dance with government, people and the government. It's a dance, but nobody's ever landing this plane.
And a weird dance.
A really weird one, and you're not even getting lucky at the end of the day, really. That you're asking the question, why is it that we can get away with murder over and over and over again, and that nothing is happening? That we see right there in plain sight that things are not being done as they're supposed to, and it's okay. We just kind of go along with the thing and we just continue dancing. If I was in a family setting and I as a child did something wrong, there would be repercussions.
Immediately.
If you walk down the street today and you were to steal a loaf of bread from a shop, there would be repercussions.
Yes.
We've seen mob justice happen to people who decide that they're going to steal till one day somebody says, this is enough, put a tire, burn the thing. It happens. But for some reason, when it comes to the people who have been given delegated responsibility, delegated sovereignty in terms of what they're supposed to do, we seem to be okay. Steal our millions, continue making our sick-sicker, don't educate our children, no problem. What? Why? Why are there no repercussions?
What you're describing, of course, is exactly what happens. And I get the sense that there is significant bottled anger, like what erupted from the young people. Yeah. And I can feel it also as far as, the older people, are concerned. And I think that is normally a very serious matter, because even 2007-8, when you have an eruption, you can easily, get a country consumed by, that anger. So this idea of impunity, because it comes back to, like, whether people are in government or in opposition, when they do wrong things, they protect each other. And as a consequence, you do something, and after a while, you're even told, that your money which had been taken by EACC, get it back, and all that kind of stuff. So because they do that, and then they go back, and they tell their communities, the wrong thing is happening because we are not in power. When we are going to be in power, nothing, everything will be okay.
But isn't it systems? Sorry, Prof. But it's systems. And I'm just looking at it. It's interesting, but we do have headlines. This was 2 days ago. Brazil's former president arrested and ordered to begin his prison sentence.
Yes.
Not, please, can we have a chat? No. Or we can't find you. Ordered. please come sit here with us because of the things that you actually did. A trial was had. He was found guilty, and we says, you know what? You're actually going to serve your sentence. How many more do we find from Korea? Just the other day, former president jailed, being sent. It's Singapore. This is Singapore that everybody shouts about, that says, oh, we should follow Singapore and be just as economically viable as they are. Sent a former president to jail to serve a sentence because of what they did. There are very many examples whereby the system is so strong.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether you are the person who's stealing a loaf of bread or you are the person who sat in the top seat as the executive. You do something wrong, you will pay for it. There are repercussions. But again, we seem to... It's a bit too far to say that the executive could do something wrong. Oh my God. It's like, how can we ever say that the executive has done something wrong?
South Korea, a sitting president.
The sitting president, exactly.
Yes.
Sitting president.
Yes.
So and when we say it, it's like we're met with such surprise, like, oh my God, how dare you say a president could do something wrong? Where do we go wrong? It's like we cannot imagine that systems can be so strong that they can work, whereby you cannot get away with espionage. And it is espionage within our walls, within our boundaries, that it happens every day. On which economically viable country will you be paying out of 100 shillings or $100, 70 towards debt? Economically viable. Which? Where? Tell me where it happens. Anywhere in the world.
It's not easy. You see, so I think in terms of like getting ourselves out of that hole of where impunity rules, where for a long time since 1963, there is this culture that has been created. I mean, starting with when people in government were allowed to do business and to do business with government and to do all those kinds of things. So fortunately, we have a constitution which can stop or minimize most of those things if we followed it, and if we followed rule of law. And that means for me that you have to get a leadership that realizes we are going the wrong way and we are going to collapse, and to turn around how we do things. And even the people themselves, in terms of civic education, for them to really say you can't do things that are going to jeopardize all of us. Because that's the other thing, that if the people say, okay, they will take, maybe they'll bring a little something to us. So it has to be a complete change.
Do people have the staying power to keep governments accountable? We saw what happened last year, and speculation or opinion was that we would only sustain it for so long. But have we gotten to the point, and we can talk about Kenya as case in point, but in African nations, do we, as the people who are the sovereign, have the staying power to actually keep government accountable, whether it's going to be blood on the streets, whether it's going to be a daily insistence, whether it's going to be going to the very basic level of government and insisting on accountability? Do we have the staying power, or can we make noise for a little bit and then, go back to status quo?
I'm afraid that when you push people, particularly young people, too much to the wall, to the extent that you are shooting them and they're still coming to demonstrate. I think that next time around, if they decide that nothing has changed and they come onto the streets, I think it will not be possible to stop them. And that is why I believe that the government, those people up there, require to really have a rethink about what is it that must be done so that there is reprieve. Particularly, when you listen to some of these young people, particularly, for them and for all of us, like this, even this health thing that has caused a lot of problems, and when we didn't do NHIF, properly, build it on NHIF, like in Makueni, even as a sequel answer to the question you asked me, we did universal health care for 500 shillings per household. And you could get, chemotherapy. Even people came for COVID to be treated in Makueni for 500 bob. The ones who are citizens, who are residents of the, So I
For
think
500 bob
Yes.
500 bob per year.
per year.
year.
Per year household.
Yeah.
And when you are
And how many households registered?
when you are old like me, after 65, you didn't even pay the 500. You know.
What sorcery is
So
this?
it was the 1 million people. They come to hospital. You know, you inpatient. You see a doctor. You get your drugs. You know, all those things happen.
It happened.
It happened.
That is why people were trooping to Makueni to benchmark.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we're trying to figure out this universal health care, how to go about it. So we actually had the example, isn't it?
And they got even the minister for health who worked with us. They got him to the national level.
They did.
Yes, through Kagwe,
Yes.
Mutai.
Yes.
So, but really to say that I would be afraid of the coming anger, and particularly in 2027, if the people believe that whoever says they have won, they have not won, then we are going to have trouble, I think, and I don't want that trouble.
But Prof,
myself.
We talk. You talk about implementation and failure of it. If we talk about it, if you look at, let's just take Makueni County for example, it is an area that is rich in fruits. You made a decision. Let's create a factory so that we can add value. That is implementation on a project that you had. You talk about an area that has been dry for a very long time. You decided, let us have sand dams. What has that done? The people of Makueni, especially farmers, have been able to grow their crops and know where they're taking that. When you come to extrapolate it to the national government, there's all this implementation that needs to be done, but for some weird reason, it's not being implemented. Is it that the national government cannot implement, or they choose not to?
Is it a weird reason, or is it just people just not doing what they're supposed to?
Well, I think first of all, you have to ask, how does the county government and the national government, work to deliver together? And even counties, how do they work like neighboring counties to deliver together? And even ask yourself, how do you deliver so that a big number of people get benefit? Because if you choose some of these pilot things,
Yes.
you say that we are piloting, 500 people to have chicken. We are piloting, a bit of this and that. So you have to ask yourself, what are the things that when they are done, they make a difference in terms of how the people and the economy is moving forward. And so, to some extent, what we hear, for example, is happening in Burkina Faso. And of course, because I have not been there, I cannot talk very authoritatively. But we can see very targeted from the media examples of something is done where a large number of people, like an example. Suppose, the county government, the national government, the county government said, we want to take national youth service to the counties so that each county, you have so many kids coming to it after the initial period of a few, like what actually is happening in Muranga. Then they get into, training for things that will give them, self-employment. And you say that, 5,000 each county. And there's money to do that. Instead of, taking money, saying so many billions, something that we don't know what it is. So it is also a determination to put whatever little money we have into things that are going to make a difference, and not put money into where you are going to get your 10%, your 20%, your 30%. I don't know what the percentage is now.
Is nowadays. In 10 seconds, what would be your advice today to government to salvage what little could be salvaged?
I would tell government, because we don't necessarily want the government to, we don't want it not to help us. So I would say you need to pause and ask 3 years down the road what's happening. And if possible, get a conversation, a national conversation with your people. Because we really don't want also the government to get desperate, so that at the end, the government says, if you think we can't have our 5 years again, we will sink all of us. We don't want to get into that situation. So I think this is the time when, as a country, you pause and you say, can we have a genuine conversation? And hopefully it is structured in such a way that particularly the young people will want to get engaged, because now many people are saying, we don't want even to engage this government because we don't believe it can change.
Good words to end on. Kivutha, Kibwana, thank you always for being here to share those insights with us. A long road ahead, but there are certain things that we can actually do and do now.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be in this situation.
Good morning. It is now 8 a.m.
Every now